Welcome. Find a nice seat for yourself. Make sure that you are very comfortable in your sitting bones touching the floor and in your effort to release the weight and tension into the earth and to begin to arrive to your own self. Take a deep breath in and exhale very slowly. And maybe 2 more times like that. And while you're exhaling, let yourself descend, let yourself drop from the head slowly down into the body. And then when you exhale fully, the next time you can hold your breath for some moments. Feeling how long can you keep the breath out before your next inhale comes. And when it comes, let it be full and expansive. And then gently and slowly again, exhale to the bottom of the exhalation through your mouth. Hold the breath for some time that is easy and comfortable for you. And when the inhale comes, you can feel it enter different chambers, different lobes of your lungs. And then relax the breath. Feel how is your breath now? Is there any difference from before? And one thing I would like you to maybe just acknowledge before we start to distinguish between diaphragms and between our breathing anatomical structures is the body as a whole. So from the head, throat, chest, in all these different areas of your body, the breath is exerting an influence everywhere. So even if there is just micro, tiny little movement, there still is movement in your head, in your tail, as you breathe. And as you develop your sensitivity to these feedback from the body, you will be able to observe it and feel it more and more. But for a time being, if you don't feel it, just take it for granted that everything breathes and all our diaphragms, even the pelvic diaphragm, is a respiratory diaphragm. Because they contribute to the breath and they ride on the wave of the breath. Alright, so we'll be exploring different diaphragms and especially the thoracic one, which is connected on the above with the lungs and heart and on below with the digestive system. Now diaphragms are membranes, so they are horizontal membranes in different spaces of our body and they make connections from front to back and side to side of our interior space. So let's first bring our hands to our head, and I would like you to flip your hands like this so that your thumbs come at the eyebrow level and the rest of your fingers are going backwards, and you're something like making something like a bottom of what would be a bottom of the crown at the base of your brain. And go with your fingers to wherever they can go, but then visualize the circle coming to full closure so that you have the entire membrane in your sensory field. And just enjoy it. I hope it's enjoyable to hold your head like this. And then very slightly turn the head. So the head is going to turn from the so-called cranial diaphragm. And you can also open your eyes if it's comfortable and participate with your sight, with your vision. So the vision and the cranial diaphragm, they are moving together. And you can send a little bit of breath in that space. And maybe release its tension all the way down into your sitting bones. So you can also, if you have your eyes open, you can look and see how I am holding the head of the skeleton, and my skeleton is sensing her cranial diaphragm. Release your hands, but continue to feel that space of the head, front, back, sides. So you're experiencing your head as three-dimensional as it is, moving in the space that surrounds you. Alright, now we're not going to go into every diaphragm because there are many and we are confined by this 60-minute framework. So let's go from here, from cranial diaphragm into the thoracic inlet. I'm going to share a screen so that you see where it is in the body. Thoracic inlet is on the top of your shoulders. It's connecting your manubrium, which is the top of the sternum, shoulders, and in the back it goes to C7, seventh cervical vertebrae. So it's like a large necklace that you are wearing, and then if you put your hands there and start to move a little bit left and right in rotational manner, you might feel this whole space, this whole membrane sitting on top of your shoulders, underneath your skin, of course. And how the head, the cranial and the thoracic inlet diaphragm, not the thoracic respiratory diaphragm, thoracic inlet, somehow communicate or stay in a connection as you move. Yeah, one moves more than the other, but they are in relationship. You can keep your mind's eye on both of these. And this is very good for releasing the tension in your neck and shoulders, especially when we start to do it lying down on our blankets. And the next time you come to center, release your hands. And if at any time you need to switch positions of your pelvis and legs, please do, because this is important to be comfortable. Now, we are now going to lobes of the lungs. And we're going to start with the right lung and then we'll go into the left. And I want you to see just briefly the picture of the lung lobes from the front. So here you have superior lobe on the right side, middle lobe and inferior. And on the left side you have superior, very big one, and inferior. So on the left you have two. But it will be easier for us to speak of upper, middle and bottom on both sides. So now I'm going to stop sharing. And let's go to awaken the right lung. So place your right hand on top of your right shoulder. Underneath there is a clavicle bone, and behind the clavicle bone already there is the lung is really big, yeah? So there is some lung tissue underneath your hand. Now what I want you to do is to relax the hand on top of your shoulder and feel the breath. Just what sensations can you notice as you breathe from the upper lung lobe into your hand. So it's not about taking a lot of breath in. It's about relaxing to that point where you can simply be aware of sensations without having to fix or change anything. Now very slowly slide your left hand into another part of your right lung, which is going to be the middle lobe, and you will find it by going underneath the armpit and then relaxing your hand. And again, inviting your attention, so that's the motor action, your attention, your awareness, but then step back and surrender to sensory input. Sensory input from lung to brain. And then slowly slide your left hand down. So it's the bottom part of the front ribs, and on the other side, if you can, on the back side, if you can put your other hand, because the back lobe is going to be quite big, and not only is it in the front, a small part of it, but it's also in the back, from about mid lung down. So here between your two hands you have your lower lobe breathing. It's an organ, right? So you are touching the bone and the muscle and the skin, but underneath is the organ. How do we touch the organ? Then when you are ready, you can slowly release. Feel the entire right lung and move your arm in and out, including your lung in the movement, but not only, initiating from your lung. So feel the lung, and then the lung is going to create some movement of the arm. So the inner body and the outer structure are supporting one another. When we move just with the outer structure, we don't feel this wonderful buoyancy that can help the movement. Okay? So try with your other hand, going up and down, rotating. It's very different, isn't it? Because we still haven't visited the other lung, yeah? Because now it's just skeletal muscular movement. It doesn't have its organ quality. Yeah, and this one is so much different, so much fuller than this one. So yeah, let's go into the other lung. So the lungs are going to help us breathe better, But also the awareness of the lungs is going to help us relax shoulder and neck. Hand on the top, few breaths here, spending some time awakening the connections. And then slowly sliding to the middle. If it helps your work, you can also produce a sound. I recommend the S sound, hissing from your intention into the lung and from your lung into your brain. After your next exhale, spend a moment of silence. And then slowly come to your lower lobe. So from underneath the breast, and the other hand is going back. If you can put a palm on it, I suppose it's even better because you can feel your own energy. But the back of the hand is also fine if it's more comfortable for your shoulder. And then again, you either stay there observing and receiving, or you do that plus the sound. And then you can slowly release your both hands, pause for a moment, feel how you are in your side that you just did. And then as you feel that fullness of the breath in your entire lung, you can create some movement that will come and feel just right for your own exploration. You're exploring how the lung and the arm connect and create something together. Yeah, so the movement that they are creating, arm and lung are doing together. Okay. Now, can you please go to your ribs with your hands and just palpate a little bit your diaphragm, starting at xiphoid. We did this also, I think, the last time, and then going down the ribs and into the back. And I'm going to share another image of the diaphragm. So I'm particularly interested in this image where you can see how on the right where you can see its shape, and can you visualize it in your own body? Can you let go of your fingers, put the hands down, look at the image and visualize this? The visual is very powerful connection tool. Can you visualize this diaphragm with the lungs on top? The pericardium is here also, which is around the heart. And under the diaphragm, the liver on the right, the stomach on the left, the organs of digestive system. The openings of the diaphragm for veins and arteries and esophagus and trachea. Not trachea, sorry, for the esophagus going down into the stomach on the left. And then we're going to go into a movement. I'm going to stop sharing again. A movement that will involve this space. So notice that, yes, the head is coming with you and the throat and the thoracic inlet, but you're creating movement particularly from this area. And can you imagine that you are not only rotating now, but that you are drawing a figure 8? So you would go left back, right front, right back, left front, in order to make an infinity sign or a number 8. And then is it possible, because the figure 8 has 2 directions, so catch yourself, which direction are you going? From the right front to left back, or vice versa, and then go the opposite. And then that will bring another movement of 8. And if this is all too complex, don't worry about it. You can just make circles. That's perfectly fine to be going in circles in one direction and then in the other. So with this movement, the attachments of the diaphragm with its neighboring tissue is getting freed up so that you have better and more movement for the breath. And so will the rest of the so-called exercises that we will do today. So just before we go to the floor, one more picture, which is the pelvic diaphragm. So this is the thoracic one, and this is the pelvic. The pelvic is the bowl. This one is 2 domes, the thoracic, and the pelvic is the bowl. The muscles connecting from sitting bones, go to your sitting bones to sitting bone. From one sitting bone to the other, sway a little bit. Feel your sitting bones. Then go from pubis to tail, from tail to pubis. So that's forward and back on your pelvis. And then go circles from pubis to right sitting bone to tail to left sitting bone. Circling around your pelvic diaphragm. Because in between these 4 points are these muscles, this membrane of muscles and fascia. And then switch the circles, the circling the other way around. Okay. let's go to the floor, and I want you to fold one of your blankets in three folds. So, for example, when you have folded your blanket a few times, you'll get something like this, right? And then from there, you're going to fold again 3 times. I mean, not 3 times, but you want it threefold. So you're going to go like this once, and then you're going to take this top part and fold it again. Well, that was a little bit too much for my blanket. So from here and then to here. Okay, and then you get this shape. So this shape is going to be for your ribs. Your shoulders should be off the blanket, which means they're going to go all the way over, all right? You see how my arms and my shoulders are off the blanket? And the blanket is supporting my lower ribs. I'll give you some time to find the ground, find the footprints with your feet, yield into the ground, yield into the support of the blanket. And if it's too high, if it ends up being uncomfortable, then it really defeats its purpose. So make it smaller. Make it lower if it's too high. So what's happening here? We have the front body encouraged to open, right? But at the same time, I don't want us to be pushing the heart up. I would like you to feel your heart and let it rest down towards your back. So no agitation in the heart to be going away from the ground. It's just resting there on the blanket. And then you might feel a little bit more breath coming into the front of your chest, lung breathing. So we're not doing diaphragmatic breath, we're doing lung, upper chest breathing. And then without doing anything else, just feel your cranial diaphragm slowly rotating to one side. And notice how far can it go with comfort for your neck. And then slowly going back to center and to the other side, taking your brain for a ride. And then pause in the middle. Now feel the pelvic diaphragm and start to turn to the right. Your knees are going to follow to the right. And then you're going to feel your thoracic diaphragm picking up the movement. And then you feel it in the thoracic inlet and in the head, how it reflects, how it echoes in it. And then come back. Thoracic diaphragm, pelvic diaphragm, feet on the floor. Feet begin the movement, pelvic floor to the left, then the thoracic diaphragm follows, thoracic inlet follows, and then your head. So choose the side. See, where does your head want to roll when your knees go to the left? Does it want to go to the left or does it want to go to the right? There's no right or wrong. And then the first side again. So just move through the diaphragms, through these wonderful membranes that are making spaces or chambers in our body. Continuing. Freeing up the tension, sequencing it down into the ground wherever you notice it. And then slowly, we're going to come to one side I suggest whichever side you can see me better. The configuration is the same, so your shoulder is still down. And now is the time to have your second blanket nearby. Because it is going to make a big difference for the head. So let the blanket be very thin. So it doesn't come all the way up as your other blanket. And it will create enough softness for the head rolls. Okay, so now when you have set up, please choose between two positions. One is your head is on the floor. If I put my head on the floor, I need a little bit more of the blanket height. Yeah, that's better. Or you can put your arm up and your head on the arm. So choose one of the two. Okay, I see what was wrong. So my shoulder was also on the blanket. So my shoulder is now off the blanket. Do you see? My shoulder and arm are in between the two blankets. That's much better. So then I'm going to have my left hand on my left shoulder. And I'm going to slowly bring the elbow forward. And as I bring the elbow forward, my head is going to roll on a forehead. And then I'm going to begin the movement from my thoracic diaphragm. From the thoracic diaphragm, I am rolling myself open. And I'm checking where is it comfortable for me to go, how far. And I'm coming back. And I'm going to lift my knees a little bit higher because I like it better when they are at the hip height. When I return, my forehead is going to touch the floor, be heavy on the floor, and then I continue from the thoracic diaphragm. I'm moving into the space behind me, even looking back if my head rolls all the way back. And then my head first starts to turn the thoracic inlet and then my thoracic diaphragm. Do this a few more times and really see if you can find comfort and joy in it. Adjusting everything that needs to be adjusted to your measures so that you can release into the earth and have this wonderful massage on the muscles between your ribs, rib bones, head, and so on. Do you notice any progression as you are moving? Each time, does it go a little further with ease? And then come back to the first original position, lying down on your side. Pause for a moment. Take an inhale and exhale slow. And then when you are ready, support yourself with your hands to come to your belly. And now you have a completely different situation here. So you can put your forehead on the floor and your diaphragm, lungs and heart are supported from underneath. To bring yourself a little bit into movement, bring your elbows a little bit back, about shoulder height, and you can explore lifting gently from the diaphragm, heart and lungs, and then going back down to the floor a few times. Easy, wave-like motion, comfortable, accessible. Upon grounding, leave your forehead on the ground for a breath and then lift up. Relax completely for a moment. And roll over to the other side. So I'm going to make the entire setup on the other side so that I can still see you, but you can just turn and roll to your other side. So placing our side ribs is by itself already quite therapeutic for the breath, because it gives a little pressure into your lower ribs, and you can feel, if you make some movements, how the muscles respond and how they can soften when you move, how they can relax from too much tension. And the top ribs, it is good for the top ribs because the blanket is creating a little bit of arch, and then they have more space. You have more space in the intercostal muscles, the muscles between the ribs. And then the bottom arm is going to come forward and your head is resting on the floor. So appreciate this position just for what it is right now. And then begin the movement. So your upper arm is going to come to your shoulder. Bring your knees up to your pelvic height. Yeah, so it's a right angle in your hips. I suppose it's easier. It's easier for me, but you try your own options. And then gently take the elbow forward, 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 forward. And let the forehead head roll and forehead come to the floor. And then gently start to roll back. And notice how different it is on this side, because you are already prepared. Your body already learned from the other side. And now it's somehow more relaxed and coordinated. So please don't go to the end range of motion where you might hurt, but rather always explore at the level that is before all that strain and pain, where you're still comfortable but you feel the restraint, you feel the limitation, and you go back. Because if you respect that limitation, your body will slowly relax and open because it will feel safe. If you push too much, it will contract and not feel so safe. please let, if you wish, you can let the upper leg lift off a little bit and help your movement, yeah? Like you are already doing. And that's good because, you know, you're listening to your body's cues and adjusting so that it's easier on the vertebrae. Move from your thoracic diaphragm. Roll the diaphragm pleasantly. Observe how the shoulders and the thoracic inlet are also moving and how it makes a difference when they initiate the movement. One more going back. And then, can you please lift the upper leg and come back to our first position of feet on the floor and shoulders on the floor and the front body more open? And feel if anything has changed in how you are, in how you breathe. And then when you're ready, you can slowly roll to the side of your preference. And from here, we're going to support ourselves with hands and lift up to seated. And we're going to move into a little bit of more dynamic rolling, but it's not going to go all the way to standing. It's just going, well, you'll see how it's going to go. We're going to go from lying down to sitting. Now, it's better if you don't have a sticky mat. So having a blanket is actually a good idea. Keep that blanket on your surface. I'm going to also remove my mat. Because I need my legs and my arms to slide, so I'm starting in this position in a sort of X or star. And then I'm gonna look to the left, down towards, let's say, my foot, and my left knee and left elbow are going to come closer, not together, but closer together, and then they're going to go apart. And I'll do this 3 times, looking down, and on the 3rd time I'm going to stay in that C shape with my left side. Alright, now what are you going to do with your right side? The right side is going to come and roll over the left, and then you're going to get a nice elongation from the hip into the foot, from the upper ribs into the hand. Stay there for a few breaths. And then bring them to a close
like in a fetus position. Right hand on top of the left, right leg on top of the right. Oh, right leg on top of the left. All right, how do we come back? So we're going to first begin with cranial diaphragm. So that's the head, then the thoracic inlet, then the thoracic diaphragm. Then you're going to begin to open your leg and arm. The arm goes up, the leg goes down, and you come back. Yeah, very good. Keep your limbs as close to the floor or dragging on the floor as much as possible. So avoid lifting them up. Think about cleaning your floor with your body. So we're going on the other side now. The cranial diaphragm, the head looks to the right, and the elbow and knee are coming towards each other 3 times and away from each other. And the next time you stay there, so the right side is smaller, so you get the opportunity to breathe into the left side. Come on your right outer hip and extend the left side as much as you can. And then fold them into the fetus position. You can even bring your forehead to the floor. And then start going back with your cranial diaphragm, shoulders, arm goes up, thoracic diaphragm, pelvic, and there you are again in the star. Now, maybe we can go and roll from one side to the other without fragmentation so much. Yeah, without cutting off different movements. So let's try it. Look to the left, elbow, knee come towards each other, and then the right side comes on top. Good. Yep, there you are. Then from there you extend down and up, and you unfold yourself into the X. So now you can choose what speed do you want to work with, and can you somehow relate this movement to expansion, condensation, navel radiation, or something that is happening on every breath you take, yeah, which is the expansion from center out and from periphery in, drawing in as you expel the air from your lungs. And when you feel you're done playing with this, you can just relax on your back, pause for a moment. Now, as you are relaxing, let the ground receive you. Let your entire body recognize that the coordination movement that we did and the breathing and all this that preceded has a higher purpose of us knowing ourselves and awakening the cellular consciousness. So let everything settle inside you for that cause. Now still with your awareness on the pulsating diaphragms. Can you make a movement towards one side, whichever one you like better, and then the other side comes on top, and then you use your hands to sit up, and then to go back. So this is just a practice of changing planes, and it will be useful for you when you want to get up from lying down to seated, or even from sitting to standing, with more ease and grace and coordination. So the only thing that we are adding now is a push from our hands into the ground, and then a yield into gravity to come back to lying down. Yeah, exactly. And then one of those times that you come up, you're going to stay up, elevate yourself coming on a cushion. And then put your one hand on your abdomen, and the other hand, the fingers of the other hand are going to come to the bottom of your sternum. So the xiphoid process. Yeah. So now I would like you when you're first of all, I would like the inhale to be slow. So as you are slowly inhaling, see if you can have both your thoracic diaphragm go down, which will be felt as a tiny little sensation in the belly, not like puffing, just a little bit of expansion of the belly. And at the same time, this bone right here is not going to go in, it's going to go out on the inhale. Okay? So, exhale fully, and then on the inhale, feel these two actions. And if you are not clear with these two actions, try first just the belly. So on the inhale, the diaphragm is descending, and that's why you feel this pressure in the abdomen. But at the same time, what we want is the bottom of the sternum not to go inwards on the inhale. That's reverse breathing, and it's not healthy. So if you hold your hand on the bottom of the sternum and you feel the inhale rising up, well, there's this tiny little bit of movement of the xiphoid forward. And then you can combine these two in a most gentle way. So reduce the movement to very small and filled with awareness and sensitivity. And then let it go entirely. So whatever has been absorbed or remembered or stimulated, let it be now. You know, the flow of fluids and energy are going to take care of this area.
Inhale and exhale. And once more, find your way to the ground and lie down for a couple of minutes in Shavasana. So there is time for doing and undoing, and there is a time for letting it all go. Shavasana is letting go of all the effort, just like you would as if you weren't living anymore. That's why it's called a corpse pose. So you surrender everything, what's done is done, no ambition, no effort. Embraced by the ground and the space around you, allowing everything to be as it is. Gently bring your awareness to the movement of the diaphragm and how the heart is riding on its wave. And then feel that rhythm flow through your entire body. And you might want to take a deeper breath or to start to move and have a stretch. Or maybe you want to stay resting longer, and that's also okay. But if you are coming up, then first feel that flow of fluids really inside the body, and then let that inner flow express itself in the outer movement as you begin to shift shapes and come to seated. And then wherever you are, either on the floor or sitting, we can complete by having our attention in the heart space and closing with a sense of gratitude for that which we received and which we are still to receive, and for that which we are consciously or subconsciously transferring and giving to others around us from this practice. Bringing our hands together at the front of the heart, take an inhale and exhale, bowing forward. Namaste.